Well, it was in July 1921 that my nephew Sang married Josie Morrison. They broke the mold when they made Josie. Of course, it was Josie who insisted that her family go to church, even if it meant pulling hair.
Dad didn't like to go to church, and I sure didn't like to go because Mom had an old pair of hair clippers that were hand operated. And you would run them back they were spring loaded. You'd run that handle back and forth, and the little blade would run back and forth. They were never sharp. They were always dull. So when Mom would start to cut my hair, it would pull the hair rather than clip it. And she always wanted to cut the hair just before we went to church. And I hated church with a passion because I was going to have my hair pulled. And I did not want to go. Dad concurred. He didn't want to go either, but Mom made us all go.
Now, Josie, or Granny as many of you called her, was very special. I know many of you have fond memories.
This was a happy time. Mama fixed us up to really look cute. And she wanted to have pictures of us when we were little.
Mama had so much pride in the way we looked, and Dad's dress clothes was khaki.
Monday was wash day. Dad had to be involved because Mama couldn't get the machine started. I can remember this, 5 years old, and it was such a big deal. Mom insisted Dad had to be there because she couldn't get it started. Get it started, he had to make sure that little gasket was clamped around where the exhaust came off because it was a long, extended pipe that went out almost 25 feet from that. Because the exhaust of that little gasoline motor would throw sparks, it would throw soot up, and if it got in Mama's washing, it was a bad day at Bad Rock.
And Mama purchased 3 blankets. And I think those blankets cost either $11 or $12. And the reason Mama wanted to buy those blankets was so if we got sick, if they had to call the doctor out, we would look pretty when we was wrapped up in the blankets.
Because when Mama quit driving, they had that old Model T, and they had the roof back down on the Model T, and they went to, Mama was driving, she drove to Clyde to pick berries. And the kids were tired, and they was in the back seat, and she looked back, and they were comfortable. Well, uncomfortable. She wanted to get her kids comfortable. She went back to straighten them up. And she run off of a cupboard and threw Bo out. It woke him up.
So we get the road rolling.
Yeah, and here she looked back and knew he was running behind the car, crying. She couldn't have been going very fast. And Mama quit driving right then. Mama had a beautiful yard. Zinnias. Zinnias. They were zinnias. And I can't remember, I think they were smaller, but anyway, they went out and pulled every bloom off and floated them on this cistern of water out by the house. That was the most beautiful cistern you ever saw until Mama came and saw it. That must have been when she saw it, you knew what was going to happen.
Those zinnias, I don't remember why, I was 5 years old, but I decided to take every one of those flowers off because I was harvesting those flowers. What made it so tough is Mama had hand watered all of those flowers. She had carried the water in there because we didn't have running water. She carried it in by buckets to water all those flowers around the house. And they were pretty. And I figured they were so pretty it's time to harvest. I didn't remember floating on the tank out there. But anyhow, I harvested the flowers, and then I found out Mother wasn't comfortable with that arrangement. And she said, "Young man, I'm going to blister you till your britches won't hold shut. In fact, you won't be able to sit down." She run and grabbed that razor strap. And she grabbed that razor strap, and I tore out the back door. Dad was down at the barn getting ready to pen the cows. 5 years old. If I could make it to Dad, I got her made. And I had it made. I could outrun her. But I turned to look to see how close she was behind me, and I fell. I stubbed my toe, and she was all over me. And I didn't make it to Dad.
Well, he got an upbringing right then, and that was the last flower that he ever pulled off. When Mama was sewing, that's Josie Edwards, was sewing, and Robert come in school, and it was muddy. He was 12 or 13. Anyway, he was muddy, his shoes, and these were new shoes. They were sopping wet with mud and water. But she hadn't even looked at him. Young man, if you've got your clothes muddy and your shoes wet, I'm going to give you a whipping. Well, it hit him just wrong. And he said, why don't you do something about it and quit talking about it? Well, that was the wrong thing to say to Mama. At the time, he had gotten wet many times before, and she just ignored it because that was her baby. Well, that time her sewing machine, the razor strap was in the drawer right there. She grabbed that razor strap out, and wham, she hit him. And it stunned Robert, and he doubled up his fist and hit her. She threw that razor strap, and she liked to beat the daylights out of him. And it made him mad, and he left. Well, he left crying. And while he was walking thinking about it, he thought how bad that he really was, what he did. He come back, put his arms around Mama, and he apologized for what he had did. And that really picked Mama's feelings up, that she had raised him to do really what was right.
Well, this story was when I first came into the family. Bob had a cow that was a really good cow. And so in order to buy my rings, he sold that cow, which really upset his mother. And the way you know that it upset his mother was because it was still a source of contention after we'd been married 40 some odd years. But anyway, she was real upset about that cow because it would have dropped a whole bunch of baby calves, and so she was not real happy with those rings, needless to say. And then when she got me for a daughter-in-law, and I couldn't carry a bucket of water, and I couldn't do a lot of the things that country girls did, it was quite an upset. So anyway, years later, this cow came up in the subject over the years pretty regularly. And she'd still fuss about that cow, and so she's sitting on the couch. She's in her 90s, and I don't know what I'd done for her, but something. And so Bob was sitting there, and he says, "Mom, tell me now, really, what do you think? Do you think I got a good deal for that cow?" She sat there a long time. She didn't say anything. Finally, she says, "Yeah, I think she was worth it." And so she finally admitted, after all those years of me being in the family, that I was worth the sale of the cow.
When I got older, it was like 17. It was so funny to, sitting in the car, and we'd stop like at a railroad crossing, and this, guy was passing, and Grandma says, "He's looking at you, he's looking at you." It was just a weird feeling to have your grandma spotting guys for you. It was just funny. She was something else.